BMX racing and competition at an all-time high, there are so many ways to get fast on the BMX track and for your BMX racing. And in this episode, I'm going to reveal the #1 secret on how to get faster. Coming up, let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of BMX Coach Live. I'm your host, three-time Olympic coach Greg Romero. It's good to see all your smiling faces. We are a live show and we're gonna go and check out the live chat and see what's going on over here. We have Jack Baker, he says hello. And today we're gonna talk about, how to get faster, the #1 way to get faster in BMX racing. There's so many different ways to get faster in BMX racing, right? There's all kinds of different ways. There's so many different ways. I don't even know where to begin. Going to the gym, doing cross training, riding a road bike, riding a mountain bike, riding your BMX bike, going to the gym, doing yoga, doing cold plunges, doing massage, eating well, mental performance, emotional support, and there's all kinds of different ways, but the #1 way to get faster is riding your bike. You guys guessed it. So today we're going to talk about ways to ride your bike, not only at the track specifically, but how we could alternatively ride away from the track, because that is going to be your best bet in terms of finding time away from the track to ride your bike and then come back to the track. Translate those skills that we acquired by riding your bike away from the track onto the track and seeing the benefits, right? There's so many different ways. But let's check out, see what's going on in the chat. Gary Anger says, hello coach, super pumped to finally make a live show. I'm all ears. Welcome, Gary. It's good to see you, man. Thunder Midget, I was going back and forth with him on Instagram. He says, wouldn't be a Tuesday without coach. And Jack Baker says, for real. Matthew Hibbard, right off the hop, he said sprints. And Jack Baker says, I love the shirt. I do too, man. Sprinting is not a crime. You know, there's so many different ways to sprint a bike. But, man, we always get funny looks as BMXers when we sprint our bikes. Do we not? Whether we're in a residential area, whether we're, I don't know, a parking garage, at the mall, we're always getting looked funny like we're doing something wrong. And let me tell you something, you're riding a BMX bike, wherever you ride, you absolutely 100% belong. Don't forget that. All right. And as you guys are watching, everyone in the chat, you guys belong. And man, really, really excited to be here. Cage Ma says, I did flat pedal sprints yesterday to work on my form. And then today I did clip sprints to make sure my form is consistent. Ooh, okay, cool. We could talk more about that. But I tell you what I want to talk about today is, and I have my show notes, of course. I took some notes before the show. And, you know, riding your bike is critical when it comes to getting faster, right? We tend to think and overthink so many different ways. You know, me being a guy that likes to learn, I'm always a student of life and learning and sport. And I love to hear opinions and hear what some of the greats have to say. And this week I've been listening to a NFL strength coach. And of course, I love American football. I love ice hockey. Those two sports totally remind me of the explosiveness when it comes to BMX racing, right? Really, really short, explosive efforts. You know, power is king. Skill is king. And what the NFL strength coach told me, he didn't tell me, I was actually listening to it. And the message that I got from him was that, listen, you know, he was doing a lecture to a group of strength coaches, collegiate, professional, all kinds of strength coaches, obviously strength coaches that are in the gym. When we were at the Olympic Training Center, we've gone through several strength coaches, and when they graduate, their goal is to leave the Olympic Training Center and land into a professional organization that can pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars of what their worth is, because they provide so much value to athletes, Olympic athletes, and a lot of running and jumping and sprinting athletes over here in Chula Vista. And, you know, at the end of the day, the #1 thing that we can all learn when it comes to any kind of off the bike training is to make sure that you're safe, that you're doing it correctly, that you're not injuring yourself, that you, if you're a coach or a parent, you're not injuring the athlete, because BMX racing is already a hard enough sport. You don't want to go onto the track where you're fatigued, where you already have an ailment, where you're already predisposed, where if you have one small crash, it ends up being catastrophic because you're predisposed by doing something wrong in the gym or using another modality outside the parameters of what's acceptable when it comes to training. And we could talk about what's acceptable and what's not. The thing that he was talking about really was the crossover of Olympic lifts, how it translates onto the field of football, and how these strength coaches try to have this mindset that they're positional coaches for these professional NFL teams. And he was reminding them that they are not. In fact, their number one duty is to ensure that the athletes are safe, because the number one place that an athlete gets hurt in any sport, out of all the sports, is actually in the weight room, right? Lifting weights, number one, is the number one area where athletes get hurt. Number two is powerlifting athletes doing Olympic lifts, doing hang cleans, doing these huge, crazy triple extension exercises from the floor, landing with the bar above them, snatches. And the argument was, hey, do these movements, which are already predisposing these athletes for injury because of sheer forces, are they easily translatable to on-the-field performance? And his argument and citation was, no, it's not. And so it got me thinking. Out of all the years I've been lifting, out of all the years I've been sprinting, out of all the years I've been racing, right? A long time. As well as playing other sports, road biking, ice hockey, and I also played football. I would agree. Olympic lifts are not the answer. Okay. That being said, that's really specific because a lot of these Olympic lifts are very similar in terms of triple extension of the hip, knee, and ankle joints. But above that, when you go to catch the bar, when you go to throw the bar over your head and do this extra lift or extra sheer unnecessary force, and that got me thinking, okay, because he said something that was very, very critical. He says the number one way that an athlete can become more powerful in their sport, in their position, is to learn better mechanics in what they do. Whether you're a football player, whether you're an ice hockey player, whether you're a BMXer coming out of the gate, the best way to become powerful is to work on your technique. So in this case, it's riding your bike, right? And we're going to talk about ways to ride your bike, because you can ride your bike and you can still do it wrong, and it's not necessarily going to help you on the BMX track. So in this episode, we're going to talk about some secrets, okay, between you and I, whoever here is live. We're going to talk about those secrets on how we can get fast away from the track, doing the smart things that are translatable on the track for your performance so you can win more races. You can grab the whole shot, get out in front, cut some people off, get out front, hold the lead, cross that finish line, double fist in the air, celebrating, right? That's what we want. That's what we live for. We're sprinting athletes, man. That's what we do. Cool, man. Let's do a quick check-in real quick. Florida BMX racers checking in. Tony Zaz, BMX, rad. Rob Thiel, these guys are all talking to each other, so please forgive me if I interrupt your guys' conversation here. Long Dong Racing, I'm 47, trying to get into it. Thanks, coach. Basic BMX, my boy Derek Ford, NorCal check-in. Cool, I'm looking forward to some questions. Beckett Struick, please forgive me if I mispronounce your names, but I see you guys coming through, man. I'm really, really excited that you guys are here. Andrew Grando, what's up, Coach G? PA checking in, Pennsylvania. What part of Pennsylvania, man? I'm curious. Anyways, so let's keep talking about this, right? Let's keep talking about ways that make it translatable off the bike, riding your bike specifically, because we understand that's going to be the number one way, right? Doing things like sprints, right? However, it's crazy. I mean, in the years that I've been racing, it still bewilders me that people want to do alternative training and they think that it's going to help them. Now, here's the thing. Psychologically, it might. And I'm not going to argue with that because the psychological is the number one predictor of your success, no doubt about it. If this is congruent with what you're doing, then who's to argue with you? Because you're 100% correct. All right. So as a coach, I'm going to influence you and say, hey, you know what? I like what you're doing. I like where your mindset is at. And I think there's better and efficient ways for you guys to even extract more performance, make it easier on yourself, have more sustainable power, raise that speed, and sustain it longer, because that's what we want in BMX. BMX is all about repeatability, right? We're not just doing one lap. We're doing tons of laps. We're practicing a lot. And when we get to the big weekend of racing, especially here in America, where we're racing 3 times, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, even practice on Thursday, we're riding our bikes four times, right? 4 times throughout that, what is it? 72-hour period? Is that 3 days, 4 days? 4 days. What's 4 times 24? 96? It's a lot of racing. It's a lot of time that we have to focus on riding our bike efficiently, riding it with skills, making sure we're not fatigued, making sure we're recovered, make sure that we can wake up the next day and do it all over again, right? So we want to be doing the right things. We want to be efficient. We want to be effective, and not only to be fast, but to ensure that we're recovering, that we're safe, that we're operating at a 100% full battery charge, like your phone operates better when it's charged, right? For the most part, right? Like, I mean, it can still operate at 2 or 3%. I know my laptop, it goes into low power mode when it drops below 20%. Okay, so, you know, when I do video editing, it wants to shut down. The processors are running slower. So when you could operate with a full battery at the track, you're going to be able to process everything even better. All right. So there's many ways to ride your bike. All right. And again, doing it away from the track is going to be the best time to do it because you're going to have the most time. The track seems to have parameters unless it's an open track year round and you have access like some of these guys do in England, but the gate's not always operating, right? So you're still limited. You know, at the track, riding your bike at the track, obviously you guys could do gates, you guys could do first straights, you could work on jumping, you could work on sections like rhythm section work, you could work on your turns, you could do longer effort work, of like half laps, 3/4 laps, full laps. And also you guys could also do local racing. That's a lot of riding. That's plenty of riding. That's very, very specific. And that is going to be your number one best way overall in terms of working on your skills, working on specific power, working on being efficient, right? Imposing the specific demand on the track. When we're away from the track, that's going to be even a better opportunity to work on things that are, if you do them correctly, translatable on the track. So we're going to go through these things one by one, okay? Because at home, we could do sprints, we could do short sprints, we could do long sprints, we could do broken interval sprints. And those are going to be, for the most part, the things that we can do specifically on the BMX bike. We can also work on jumping. We can also go to the trails. We could do gate starts if you guys are lucky enough and if you guys have an adequate gate, that's not going to hurt your gate start technique, but help your gate start technique, okay? You know, things like acceleration technique is a way to create more power because, again, we want to be able to do things on the bike that translate into power. And what translates into power is technique and skill and effort, okay? Okay, technique, skill, and effort. And just by working on technique alone, making sure you're in the proper sprinting acceleration position, for example, will allow you to be efficient. And when you're efficient, you have more power. You could go up against a guy that's even stronger than you, and if he's not efficient, he's just fighting the technique, and it's not going to work out for him. It's not going to work out for him until he corrects it, okay? He could spend all that time lifting weights, doing power cleans, taking spin classes, running with a sled in front of him or a sled behind him, or doing parachute sprints, and doing ballistic training and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, doing CrossFit. That seems to be a thing. right? Talk about a sport that's really, really high risk injury, right? Doing as many reps as you can. Hey, you know what? It works for some of my athletes. Some of my athletes actually do it and they have nag one plates and it helps them out emotionally and mentally. So I really can't, they want to do it because it's part of their camaraderie, it's part of their community. And I just say, listen, when you go there, do some of these things instead. And they do, okay? But they do like going all out. And you know what? I can't say no, right? Because it's not like they're full on professional and they're getting paid to do it. So unless you're full on professional BMX racer, I don't mind you guys enjoying, one or two things to indulge if it emotionally and mentally supports you, if it gives you connection, if it gives you connection and camaraderie with the community. And I'm going to say, for the most part, 90% of the time, I want you to be working on technique and efficiency and working on these 2 or 3 simple secret exercises that are going to translate and enable you to get out of the gate and dominate and get that second half crank over on your competition and grab the whole shot. All right, so enough of the lecture here. Let's talk about certain areas, right? Number one, gate technique, reaction, and power. Gate technique, reaction, and power. It's really, really, really simple. What can you do at home away from the track? Obviously, at the track, you can work on your technique. You can work on accelerating to the first jump, and that's very specific. And that's going to be the number one way for you to get faster. My mouth's getting dry. I'm starting to. Yeah, Tony Zaz says nothing beats saddle time. That's right. Amen, brother. And so back to gate start. So we're going to talk about the gate. We're going to talk about 4 critical areas, okay? We're going to start with the gate, and then we're going to start with 3 other ones. If you guys bear with me, we'll get to the 3 other ones that I really, really like, that I really hone in a lot of attention with my clients and my winner circle clients and my Olympic athletes. But we're going to start with the gate, and we're going to go all the way to the finish line. I'm going to tell you what secrets you guys can do away from the track on the bike. Gate start technique, reaction, and power. Okay. Number 1, you can practice first movement training, right? When you guys are in a stand start position, maybe using some kind of block, if you will, whether it's a sprint block, a box, or even if you have your handlebar up against a pole. Work on that first technique, that first movement, okay? And that's going to help you with technique and timing and reaction and getting you going in the right direction. That's number 1. Number 2, working on your second pedal acceleration position when you come off the box. Okay, there's 2 ways you could do that. Number 1, you could start with your opposite foot forward already in the second pedal power position with your shoulders right over the handlebar grips being forward already. Okay, that's one way. And then the other way, of course, is just simply coming off the box with your correct foot forward and then making sure that you keep your shoulders over the handlebar grips. Getting into, when you're getting into the first and full extension of the first half crank, making sure that you stay there, keep your hips up front, and then drive the hips in the forward, drive the hips and the shoulders forward, keeping the shoulders forward over the handlebar grips, driving the hips through again, making sure that your hips don't go behind the seat and keeping it forward. Just working on simple efficiency and technique like that, allowing yourself to get into that second pedal right away, that automatically translates into efficiency, which is more power, right? More power. Things that are not taking up much time means more efficiency. When you're able to get right into it, that's direct drive. Direct drive is more power, right? It's more power. You're delivering power faster than the next guy, regardless on how much power you're actually delivering. All right. Number 2, let's talk about first jump acceleration. Keep moving here. First straight power. I like first jump acceleration, first straight power. Really, really simple. Short sprints. Okay. Your average distance from the gate once it drops to the first jump is roughly 5 cranks. 5 times 15 feet is 1 full revolution of a crank. 15 feet times 5 is 75 feet. So mark your sprints out to 75. You can even go to 90, sometimes six full cranks. Again, I said 5 is the average, so it just depends if it's indoor or outdoor. But if you guys watch a lot of video, if you guys go to the track next time, when you come out of the gate, just count it. Every time that I go to a track, whether I'm racing or coaching, I'm always counting how many cranks are to the first jump. It's just a habit. Hey, how many cranks do I have? What do I get? What's the opportunity there? All right. And also that way I understand if I'm showing up to that first jump opposite foot forward. If it's opposite foot forward, do I have an opportunity to pedal through and keep my front wheel up and maybe do a pedal manual all the way through the jump? Or is it a jump that I have to jump? Or is it a jump that I have to pull up for? Okay, so I do those things to calculate and, and I do that before I get to the race. And then I work on that acceleration of that same exact distance before I even get there. All right, that's increasing power. Talk about specificity. Talk about preparedness. All right, so short sprints. And obviously there's all kinds of different ways. And I could go on and on about short sprints, whether it's flat pedals, clipless pedals, big gear, small gear, uphill, flat, decline. We're not going to go there. But I would say any of those really help, honestly. But to keep it really simple, flat ground, short sprint. If you race with flats, do it with flats. If you race with clips, do it with clips. If you want to try it with flats, great. Absolutely great. But do the work. Do the short sprints. And of course, you're going to want to rest at least 3 minutes between each effort, okay? To make sure that you're fully recovered. ATPCP, that's adenotriphosphate, creatine phosphate. We're not going to get into the science, but you guys are getting it, right? Short sprints, that's what's going to handle it. It's not going to be the spin class. It's not going to be doing sled pulls and pushing a sled at your CrossFit gym across some AstroTurf with a bunch of weight. It's nonsense. There's nothing to prove that actually translates. Okay? What translates is specificity. If there's an area that you want to improve, work on it specifically away from the track, mimicking it as much as you can. All right? Doing at home, okay, now obviously, you could do it at the track and that's going to be the best way to do it, especially if it's like rhythm section work, and we're going to talk about that here in a moment. But if you're going to work on your first straight, it's kind of hard to do that when you have to kind of do a full lap, even if you're not going all out, right? You do a gate, first straight, and then, you shut it down and you got to go around the track and you could come back up to the back of stage and you got to wait your turn, and it takes up a lot of time and take up some energy. But at least doing a sprint session at home, you eliminate the gate, you focus on that 5 full crank area, okay? And there's not a whole lot of extra steps to get through that workout, right? You don't have to go through an entire track. You don't have to do a gate start. See what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this? You can actually get faster away from the track by going deep into the area that you want to improve. All right. Let's keep moving here. Track speed. Now, track speed is, oh, did I forget one? Forgive me. I was going to say top end leg speed, right? Like after the first jump going all the way to the first turn, where typically that's going to be your highest RPM output, and downhill sprints, okay? That area typically is only about 2 to 3 seconds. So you don't need to do a 20-second long sprint in an effort to improve your top end leg speed, raising your RPM cadence for that specific area of the track. Doesn't make any sense, right? Back in the day, there was a guy that used to talk about doing quarter-mile sprints. He asked me, hey, Greg, what's your quarter-mile sprint time? I don't know. I've never done one. It never made any sense, right? Maybe back in the 80s when there was like 3 jumps on the track and they were all about a half a foot tall. Yeah, quarter-mile sprints made sense back then. But today, being that tracks are full and inundated with, I even say that right? They're full of jumps everywhere, and there's not a whole lot of opportunity for you to get a lot of pedals in. Everyone's really restricted on how many pedals they can get in. It's not like you're going to change your gear and get more pedals in, because give or take, everyone's still one full crank revolution's 15 feet. That's it. That's all you guys get. Give or take a quarter inch or an inch. That's it. You guys got to get the most out of it. So yeah, top end leg speed. maximum speed sprints, jump sprints, flying sprints, anything that's going to allow you where you're slightly going downhill, doesn't take a whole lot of resistance, and it's forcing you to wind out. All right, I want to make sure I touched on that. I didn't get a slide for that. I want to talk about track speed because I think this one's really important. I think there's lots of ways to improve your track speed, obviously, and number one, it's going to come down to staying smooth and being efficient on the jumps, right? I mean, you could be super fast, super powerful out of the gate down the first straight, but if you can't get through the first jump, if you're making mistakes or trying some crazy technique over the double going into the first turn where you're trying to pull over and trying to pull up for the jump or pick up for the jump, whatever you guys call it. I call it speed jumping, but that's a 90s term. But today they just call it simply picking up. But, trying to pick up for something that you can't do, better than 60% of the time, that's nonsense. So you want to think about staying smooth, being efficient over the jumps. That's number one priority. Always pick the best and most consistent line down the first straight. Now, of course, we're going to apply this with all the jumps out of the first turn all the way around the track. And the rhythm section is an area where it gets a lot of riders, including myself. The rhythm section is usually around the third straight, and that's like where that's where typically you guys are starting to fatigue. That's where the lactic acid is starting to build up. It's starting to burn. Your legs are starting to get heavy. And when your legs are getting heavy and you're starting to burn, you're getting this feedback where it's like, oh my gosh, it's really hard and it's going to compromise and fatigue you. And when you're compromised and fatigued, it's going to put you in a position of being inefficient and not smooth and not safe through a rhythm section. So you tend to dial it back. I don't want to crash. And you're only going about, 80% through the rhythm section. And so, what we want to do in an effort to increase track speed, especially through a rhythm section, is two things. We want to work on our rhythm section skills, right? And we want to be able to do it while we're fresh. Okay, that way we could program what you're capable of doing, okay, in terms of a talent, in terms of a skill and an effort, right? Skill times effort equals talent. Okay, so you want to be able to just maybe dedicate 30 minutes when you guys get to the track and just focus all of your fresh energy on the rhythm section, working on getting through it with confidence, working on staying smooth, working on being consistent, and really programming yourself to get through it as fast as you can. You want to be able to raise that ceiling of your capability of getting through it fast as you can. Okay, when you do that and you're able to repeat that, you're programming it, you're getting yourself confidence because you're programming your unconscious mind to be smoother, to do it with consistency every time. Okay, and then number two, the other way that we can improve our track speed and our efficiency through a rhythm section or our total track speed from the first turn all the way to finish line is simply doing interval work. And there's two ways we could do that. Number one, we could do it at the track, and we talk about it all the time, simply doing half lap work, 3/4 lap work, full lap work. You see guys doing all the time. Sometimes they'll roll off the gate and they won't even start their effort until they hit the first turn, and they go all out from the first turn all the way to the finish line. And then they rest, 4 to 5 minutes, and then they do it again. And maybe they do only 4 or 5 of them. And that's more than enough because their body's full of lactic acid and metabolic waste. And what you're trying to do is be able to impose the demand of getting through the track and navigating the track with that waste, and also raising your tolerance for lactic waste. Okay. And that way, when your body after 10 seconds into the race is starting to use a different metabolic energy system, and it's giving you feedback that, hey, we're producing lactate, right? Lactic acid. And your body's going to be like, hey, no problem. I'm used to this. Let's keep going. I know how to get through the track really fast. Let's do that instead. I don't want to slow down and be fatigued and play it safe. So that's the benefit of doing interval training at the track specifically. Now, you could also do that away from the track. You could do broken effort sprints, right? Broken interval sprints where, you're kind of mimicking what's going on a BMX track, where you're sprinting 3 seconds on, rest for a second, do it again, rest for a second, do it again, 3 seconds on. So you get at least 10 seconds, get anywhere from 10 to 15 seconds of sprinting in one effort, rest 3-4 minutes, do it again. Okay. There's actually a video on this channel. You guys can actually do that away from the track, come back to the track, you'll notice that you guys will be able to, you'll be faster. You've raised your ceiling in terms of tolerating metabolic waste. Therefore, you're going to be able to get around the track efficiently and smoothly. And when you're getting around the track efficiently and smoothly, guess what? Your track speed is raised up. All right. Is this starting to help? Is this getting through to you guys? Do you guys find this helpful? I'm curious. I'm curious. And I think that's about it. I think that is about it. What questions do we have, guys? We're 30 minutes into the show. We got another 30 minutes to go. We're going to do a Ask Coach G section here coming up. Jack Baker says yes, but I don't know who he's talking about. Matt Johnson says he practices visualization. I don't know who he's talking to. Someone else says he joined the YMCA, getting on the squat rack, doing some Tabata sprints too. Let's see. We're getting a bunch of stuff coming. Thunder Midget says keeping it simple. Yeah, man, keeping it simple. Believe it or not, that is the secret. That is the secret, man. Right? At least for things that are translatable on the track, right? Because I've seen it. It was funny, there was a post on Instagram, and you guys aren't going to find it, but some crazy guy doing some crazy lift with a barbell. And man, he did some crazy lift, and then like he landed on a trampoline, and the barbell went up, and then as he came down, the barbell was aiming right at his freaking chest and his face, and he was about to get killed. And it was laughable. I made an inside joke with Connor Fields because we spent a lot of time together at the Olympic Training Center, especially for these Olympic Games like 2012 and 2016 to be more specific. And we were laughing because back in 2012 at the Olympic Training Center, there was a time where there was BMX coaches that for some reason, and this is not a projection, they just felt insecure about their ability to coach BMX racing specifically at that level. And what they were trying to do was trying to compensate and make up for it in the gym's strength area, right? Like they had some sport specific background or gym, physical training, or I don't know what, some certification, right? And they were doing all kinds of crazy circus movements. And I remember just like looking at it and just trying to I was just like cringing. I was like, what are you guys doing? Are we getting ready for the Cirque du Soleil in Vegas? Or are we getting ready for BMX Olympic caliber racing here? What are you guys doing? You guys are making things more complicated in the gym. They were doing some crazy lifts and some crazy... It's like, dude, I was just telling someone today, a guy by the name of Warwick Stevenson who won a ton of races. He's a world champion, USA BMX #1 guy and all that stuff. Kept it simple. Squats and sprints. That's it. And he won. Squats and sprints, right? Those are two things. We know getting stronger in the gym is going to be translatable in terms of power on the track, right? It's just a matter of what kind of strength that you're acquiring in the gym. And at the same time, is that strength work, is that hurting you and predisposing you for injury? Or is it helping you and translating into what you're doing specifically when you're coming out of the gate? All right. And that's what we're talking about here. And so, yeah, so I made a comment. I actually tagged Connor Fields and he just laughed. He was just like, oh my gosh, this is so true, man. I made a comment of the 2012 run where, unfortunately, America didn't get any medals, but there was a lot of people coming in doing some crazy stuff from all over the country, right? And there was a lot of private coaches and coaches coming in an Olympic Training Center and just doing crazy unnecessary stuff to where people were getting injured, right? And then they were trying to do stuff, anyways, I can go on a rant, but I tell you what, I'll see you guys after the break. We're going to go through Ask Coach G. I'm going to sift through these. Also, live show. The super chat is on. If you guys want to donate, great. If not, great as well. I'm honored to be your coach. Just want to let you know that any donations are greatly appreciated, and it all goes back to what it takes to operate this channel in general, right? I got all kinds of studio stuff. I'm always upgrading stuff, and I got other people helping me and whatnot. Anyways, if you guys could do that, that's great. If not, no big deal. I'll sift through the questions and I'll take a look at these and we'll start to get to your questions right after the break. Hey guys, I have a question. What would it do for you if you could enhance your power out of the gate, enhance your sprint speed down the first straight, enhance your skills, enhance your mental performance mind state? What would that do for your racing or your kids' racing? If you're seeing the value of enhancing your BMX performance, consider joining the community of BMX Training Pro and get the same access my Olympic athletes have enjoyed, as well as thousands of BMXers all over the world. Some members use the access to improve their gate start techniques. Some also use the access to keep them motivated to train, and you'll find your reason when you gain access and join BMX Training Pro today.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now.
Nitro with the nice flow.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now. Let's go. Stay focused, here the heat come. Concentrate to the sound of the beat drum. Yeah. Start it up, take it back now. Check it out. This is how it's going down. Yeah.
Test, test, test. All right, we got one channel. Let me fix the other channel. Let's see here. Test, test, test. Thank you guys for pointing that out. Good thing I'm looking for the other channel. I forgot how to do this. I'm gonna fire my audio guy. Shoot. All right, let me fix my sound, guys. One channel. Why is it one channel? Is there a different one I could use? Let's go with this one. I think this one has two channels. Boom, two channels, but now I can't see the social. Give me a second, guys. Please forgive me. Let's use this one. Ooh, this looks different. All right, let's use that one. Hopefully, all right, everything works. And now we got two titles. Let's get rid of this one in the back. All right. All right. All right, guys. Hey, listen, I'm good at BMX coaching and I'm, good at racing and I'm great at doing live shows and making sure that my audio is turned on correctly. Guys, what I was saying with Cage Moss here, so Cage says, I did flat pedal sprints yesterday to work on my form, and then today I did clip sprints to make sure my form is consistent. What is your opinion? And what I was saying earlier before I didn't realize I didn't have any audio was that it just depends on for what purpose are you doing clip sprints and then doing flat sprints, or doing flat sprints and then deciding to do clip sprints. Are you saying you're doing clip sprints after you did flat sprints the following day to just reconfigure that, hey, my feet are attached to the pedals while I'm sprinting and I'm accelerating. If that's the case, cool, right? Absolutely. Yeah, it's more specific. I would say that, yeah, you're probably going to get a little bit more speed out of your clips because you don't have to worry about keeping your feet on the pedals. Okay, that's why clips are simply faster. Flat pedals, you have to focus on keeping your feet on the pedals, and you're a little bit more in a stroke a little bit longer. And yeah, and then the positioning is a little bit different, where on flat pedals, your arch is more over the foot, whereas clip pedals, the ball of the foot's more over the spindle of the pedal. Hopefully that makes sense. But what's my opinion? I think both are great, right? And I think at the end of the day, flat pedal sprints, you're also working on your form. So, as long as you're doing the correct form on both flat pedals or clips, you're great. If you're doing clips after a flat pedal session, like somewhere later down the week, I like doing that just to reconfigure and make sure that my speed of discharge, right? The amount of power, the pedal stroke is fast, and I'm used to having my feet attached to the pedals, in which, if you were to practice with flat pedals all the time and just decide on the day of the race, I'm going to throw my clips on and feel, because I'm going to feel faster. Well, that's just a feeling. How do you know if you're actually going to be fast? Because at the end of the day, it's going to probably feel really easy, which is good. However, I would say that you'd probably want to be a little bit more, you want to impose that demand a little bit earlier before you actually get into the racing, especially if it's a big weekend of racing. If it's local racing, it's whatever, right? But you want to make sure you impose that demand, because it is a little bit different in terms of the speed of discharge. And being that everything is neurological in terms of adaptation, imposing that specific demand of our feet being attached to the clips, to the pedals, and that it is faster, we want to make sure that we can keep up with that speed. All right, hopefully that makes sense. What other questions we have? Gene's way to get more interaction in the chat and get bumped up in the algorithm. Yeah. Right. Jacob James. He can't get his sprints in due to rain. I'm still getting my... Oh, let's help him out. Jacob James, man, he is a regular. Rob Thiel. Jack new rear wheel and hub upgrade and complete bottom. Okay, that's not what I want. Sorry, Rob. Jacob James says, hey, all. I'm a little bummed out. I'm on my 4th day of the 21-day Faster First straight, and I cannot get my sprints in due to rain. I'll still get my gym work done, though. Any substitute for uphill indoors? Uphill indoors. I would go high resistant on an exercise bike. If you're doing your gym work at a gym, right? I mean, I don't have a gym, but if you're doing your gym work at the gym, just jump on the exercise bike and see if you can ramp up the resistance. And I would just focus on doing, whatever the protocol says. If I'm calling for 5 full cranks hard uphill, then just do 5 full cranks hard on an exercise bike. Really easy. Cool. Tony Zach. What's going on? Why is it stuck? Oh man, now we're getting errors. What the heck is going on? The social media title's not showing up. It's stalling out. Man, what's really going on here? Is it because your question's so long that it doesn't want to show up? See, it's not even showing up. Let's try a different one. You know what it is? My computer's getting hot. All right, let's try this. Now this is almost covering my face. All right, Tony. Hey, guys, thank you so much. Jacob James, thank you so much for the $10 chat. I'm going to need to hire an audio guy. Tony says, if I'm an intermediate BMX racer and started wearing clips about a year and a half ago, how often should I show up to the track and flats for training? Okay, please forgive me. Are you racing with clips? Because if you're racing with clips, then you might as well just race with clips. You might as well just show up to the track with clips. Now, if you want to run flats in an effort to work on your skills, like through a rhythm section or jumping, or you want to do some sprint training and work on a little bit more strength speed, if you will, right? Because using flats, you're a little bit longer into the stroke and it does require a little bit more oomph to get it going. Then, that's why you would want to throw on flats. Okay. If you want to raise your ability to, your skill set or your speed, your acceleration speed, that's where flats would come in. How often should I show up to the track in flats for training? I don't know. Honestly, that's a great question because, again, I'm a big guy I'm big on specificity. I'm big on showing up on what you're going to race with, right? Like if I know that I got a race coming up, for example, and I already know let's say I'm going to do the World Championships next year, and I already know what the track looks like, and I've been there before. I have an idea what gear I'm going to run. I'm going to run a 44-16 with 177s and clips. I'm training with that. I'm going to be very, very specific. I'm not going to say, oh, you know what? Let's get on some flat pedals today and do some, I don't know, let's do some half lap work. Let's go from the gate all the way to the second corner in flats. For what purpose, right? That's not very specific. I'm going to want to run the equipment that I'm going to race. Okay. Hopefully that answers your questions. Let's see, what else do we have? Jev. Nope. Jeff Dominguez says, getting faster, what's more important in your opinion? Keeping in mind, I usually do 2 local races a week, getting in 3 gym workouts or 2 gym workouts and a non-race track time practice instead. Whoa, that's a lot. All right, so what's more important in your opinion? Okay, well, you're racing 2 times a week. I think that's the most important thing, right? Because especially, Jeff, please forgive me because I know this is I know that this isn't your real name, and I think you already told me this. It just depends on where you're at. If you've been racing for less than 2 or 3 years, and I think racing is your priority, right? Having your off the bike or away from the track race schedule your off the bike, away from the track race schedule revolve around your 2 nights of local racing, I think that's going to be important. The gym workouts, 3 gym workouts, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing in there, so that doesn't give me a whole lot of context. Because I say gym to somebody and they're like, they might think that I'm going in there and doing a bodybuilding workout, right? They might think I'm going in there and doing a CrossFit workout, right? Or someone might realize what I do and I'm going in there and working out specifically, doing 2 or 3 exercises for the lower body, a core workout, and then I'm out, right? Not even touching upper body. So some people might think 3 gym workouts, that's 3 leg workouts. Whoa, that's a lot. So I need more context, but I will tell you this. I would say that 2 local nights of racing, I would throw in some sprints in there for sure, right? One day of sprints of like acceleration, focusing on anywhere down the first straight, whether it's from the gate to the first jump or even your top end leg speed. You can't go wrong with either or. Okay. And then maybe dedicate another sprint session day for interval work, working on your ability to tolerate metabolic waste. Okay. You want to be able to impose that demand of tolerating metabolic waste. And that way you could be a little bit more efficient on race day. All right. Hopefully that answers your question, man. Jeff says it's plyo sprint core based. Yeah, that's fine. And I would say that, if you're doing that 3 times a week, that might even be too much, right? I'd maybe dedicate one day plyo and then maybe another day sprint. And then the third day could be a buffet, whatever you want. That, as me as your coach, that's what I would say. Hey, that third day you want, do whatever the heck makes you happy. But the first day, yeah, I like that plyo sprint base. That's cool. That's specific. The other day, I would focus on some kind of maximal strength, because that's where the goods are. That's where the meat and potatoes are. That's what's going to be really, truly transferable into the skill of accelerating the bike. It's raw strength. Raw strength is going to help. What other questions do we have? I have about 8 more minutes, so I'm sure we can get a couple more. SS, I can't even say the name, but let's see if I can find this comment. I'm going to cheat and throw on some reading glasses. Yes, I am getting that age. This is the first year of actually starting getting into reading glasses. Never thought I'd get there, but I finally reached it. Sura Nalivo is on. Hey, say hi to Mateo for me, please. Looking for this question or a comment. It really, really stood out to me. Here we go. This one stood out to me. I can't say the name. It looks like it says "Seize Up." I joined the YMCA and getting on the squat rack, doing some Tabata sprints too. I don't know what the Tabata sprints are, but yeah, getting in the squat rack, that's keeping it simple. That's keeping it safe, right? When you start getting into difficult exercises like a power clean, which is integrating a deadlift, moving it as fast as you can off the floor and then catching it above your head in a jerk motion, that's where we get into danger. That's the danger zone. But squats are safe. Squats are safe. And the Tabata sprints, I assume that's going to be something to where you're sprinting, resting, sprinting, resting. Hey, you know what? That's cool. Don't know if that's very specific to BMX because it depends on how you're doing it. What's the effort? What's the micro rest in between each effort? And what's the volume? Okay, that's always going to dictate, is it helping or hurting in BMX? But I would say that if you feel that it's helping, hey, that's key. Matt Johnson I didn't get the context, but he just says, I also practice visualization. Man, visualization's key. If you can't see it, you're not going to do it. Majority of us human beings are visual. Okay. I like to talk about this for a moment, especially when it comes to goals, when it comes to manifesting, when it comes to creating an awesome future for yourself, because that's what you guys are also doing in the sport of BMX. You guys are training for tomorrow. And tomorrow, we're hoping and we're wishing and we'll see if it happens. And the truth is, you guys got to see it. Forget hoping, forget wishing, forget finding out if it's going to work. You guys have to see it. You guys have to have a clear picture for the most part, right? Got to have a clear picture of executing that rhythm section, executing your gate start, executing, the podium that you want at the next race, right? Executing, winning that regional, winning that state championship, executing, winning that first national. You guys got to see it. If you can't see it, you're not going to do it. That's just the bottom line. So I don't know what he means by visualization, because visualization means tons of different things to tons of different people. But I know for me, I get my athletes to think clearly on what they want. In fact, they create a mind movie, almost like an Instagram reel, if you will, of a bunch of images in their head, and they play it often. They play it in the morning, they play it at night, and we program the unconscious mind. And let me tell you something. I had a breakthrough when I first started getting into visualization back when I was 22. I had the visualization of winning every single lap at the USA BMX Grands as a pro. And it was going to be my second year as a pro. And I just went all in. I had the courage to say, you know what? I'm going for it. That's what courage is all about. I'm going for it. I could see the success. Yes, there's a part of me that says, hey, you probably can't do that. Hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should protect yourself. What are you doing? You're going beyond your upper limit thermostat here. We need to cool you off. But you know, you go do what you need to do, the unconscious mind says. And I just went for it. And I had the visualization and I had the kinesthetic feeling that went along with that visualization by writing down what I was doing. And I was writing it down as if I already did it. That's the key. Visualizing the success as if it already happened, not, oh, that's the process of it happening, right? I always ask people, hey, you know, how will you know when you have won the world championships? When I make the main? Dude, you haven't raced a lap, you haven't raced a final yet. Let's fast forward the movie and get to the visualization of the part of at least when you know and you have solidified the victory of winning that world championship main. Oh, I crossed the finish line. Oh, what else do you see? Oh, I see other racers congratulating me. I see people in the stands. You get very, very clear on that visualization, on that movie, and you program the unconscious mind by playing that movie. That's true visualization. Now, there's also visualization on a movement that you haven't done before. I actually did this the other day. There was a movement where you're like, you know, you're sitting on your knees and the back of the feet are on the carpet. And then you do this move where you kind of like extend through the hips and you jump up and you land on your feet. I've never done it before. And I sat there for a moment and, you know, me and my girl who's my significant other of 20 years, she was a former professional ballet dancer and she's really good in terms of like kinesthetic and body mechanics. And we were talking about doing it and she tried to do it and she was like, I can't see myself doing it. And when she said that, I was like, aha, I got to see myself doing it. So I had to replay how I was going to do it, how I was going to do it, how it was going to felt when I did it. Okay. How it was going to felt when I landed on my feet correctly and safely. I visualized the end result. And then boom, I just decided I'm going for it because I can see it. I had the courage to do it despite the fact that I never did it before, but I programmed myself through visualization that I could do it. If I'd never done it before, I could have got hurt, okay? I could have got hurt. But thank you very much, Matt. I really appreciate that. What else do we have here? Squats are my favorite. You were talking about hockey earlier. Do you think if I love hockey, that's a good workout? Yeah. Let's go back to that. And of course, Jacob James, cha-ching. Thank you, thank you very much for the $10 for the BMX Training YouTube channel. It's going to go for all expenses. YouTube. Great question here, Matthew Hubbard, because most of us are not professionals on this channel. A lot of us do this for fun. Some of us are younger kids and we're trying to figure out life, and BMX is a part of the path of, you know, discovering what our limits are, what our potential is, and working through our limits, right? And going above and beyond. And some of us are older guys that are just like, you know what? I just want to be able to race on the local level and flex up against a couple guys and have some beers afterwards. I think that's fantastic too. So Matthew Hibbard says you were talking about ice hockey earlier. He didn't say ice, but when I think of hockey, I think of ice. I don't think of roller hockey. You were talking about hockey earlier. Do you think if I love hockey, that's a good workout? Absolutely. It depends on how you're looking at that as a workout and how that's helping you specifically for BMX. Now, if you're looking at it as a, hey, you know what? Hockey, you know, especially if it's like beer league and you're out there for an hour or you get 45 minutes of ice time and you're going out and doing an interval and coming back. Yeah, then you could kind of look at that as a way to raise your ability to tolerate metabolic waste, right? Lactic acid, when the legs get heavy coming out of the first turn, going through that rhythm section. When you're taking your shift in ice hockey and you got what, about a minute, go all out. Don't just float around and hang out in the neutral zone and wait for the puck to come so you could get go in all alone against the goalie 1-on-0. You know, actually play, actually skate, move around. Maybe he even hit a couple people. Not, you know, don't check him because you're going to get in a fight. And I've gotten fights in hockey, man. It's brutal. When I got in a fight in hockey, that's when I decided I needed to quit. I'm taking this way too seriously. But I love the camaraderie. And I do think that there is a benefit of going all out when you do skate in terms of that fitness. But don't think that like ice hockey is going to help my gait. It's going to help my first straight acceleration because I'm accelerating, you know, and it's helping me with my corners because I'm doing these tight pivots on the ice and I'm doing these pivots forward to backwards. No, none of that's going to transfer. However, if you look at it as if I go all out on my shift when it is my shift and the shift is a minute long, and then I come back onto the bench and I rest for 2 or 3 shifts, 2 or 3 minutes and go back on and do it again, then it's almost like doing half lap work on the BMX track. Same thing. Oh God, Jack. All right, we got to go with a Jack Baker question. Our 14-year-old over here says, do you think video games help with reaction time? I don't know, man. You know, they say that we react faster to sight rather than sound. So it depends on what modality that you're using. Oh, man, that's a great one. I'm not even going to go there, but I thought that was funny. Joe says, thanks for that can't even speak. Thanks for that visualization lesson. Chile here. He's from Chile. That's what I love, man. We got people coming all over the world. Jack, my goal is to get state number 1. How are you going to do that? How will you know when you have achieved that goal, Jack? You can't just say, hey, you know, my goal is to get it, because you're not going to get it. You're stating it wrong to begin with, man. You got to state this goal. My goal is to get state number 1. You got to rephrase that. I'm getting state number 1. You are state number 1. See what I'm saying? You got to remove the limitations that's giving you this language as if you didn't even accomplish it. That's part of the visualization. You got to be able to see it. And don't tell people what your goals are, man, because that's the problem. You know, I was talking to a friend the other day, telling people what your goals are, unless it's someone that 100% supports you, right? And even then, you got to make sure that they don't impose their limiting beliefs, their limiting filters. You don't want them to poison your brain with their limitations, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to accomplish this. And they're going to say, they're automatically going to think, well, you know, can I accomplish it? They're naturally going to do that. And whether they could do it or not, that's going to determine how they support you. So keep your goals to your chest and protect them, right? Protect them from other people reframing them and changing the meaning on your goals. All right? Don't share your goals. I know some people say, oh, you know, share your goals. It holds me accountable. Great. But you know what? Most people don't want to see you succeed. I do. I'm your coach, right? If you guys go on my Instagram, I'm always talking about everyone needs to succeed. Everyone should be able to accomplish what they want, right? Who am I to tell you that you can't? You're the only one that can tell you that you can't do it. Because I believe everything and anything's possible, especially that there's so many people that we can model in terms of success, right? And that's what I do as a coach. I help and guide you and influence you to influence yourself. Days Rock says, when practicing figure 8 turns with cones, how many should we do and how long should the rest periods be in between? You know, that's a great question. I would start with like at least 15 to 20 seconds. I would just go with a timer, right? I would go with a timer and just practice the technique. And it's interesting. One thing that I want to remind you on figure eight turns days is that whatever outside foot, excuse me, when you're doing the figure eight turn, your outside foot is down. That inside foot needs to be light. Lighten up that inside foot and put all your weight in that outside foot. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Great question. Sarah says, if a younger rider is doing sprints and plyos regularly and gaining strength and speed, is it possible they outgrow the gearing setup that worked well for them thus far? And what would that feel or look like? Sorry, I have two monitors here. Yes, Sarah. So theoretically, yes. If a younger rider is doing sprints and getting stronger and doing their strength and speed, is it possible if they can outgrow the gearing setup that worked well for them thus far? Yes and no, because I think if you're going to be doing a lot of strength and speed work, you're going to be more efficient using that same gear. Straight up. Now, will it allow you, if you get stronger, will it allow you to run a taller gear? Say like a quarter gear, a half gear, or just one full tooth up? Absolutely. Yes. And it also depends on how fast they're growing, right? If they're growing, then yeah, they might need to change the cranks. It might need to go longer. If the cranks go longer, then the gearing does need to go up. But all said and well, yeah, if you get stronger and you get faster, then you're more efficient on that gear. So it doesn't always translate. Like with the pros that I've trained, I've been able to train a couple guys that were able to increase their 1 rep max in the gym from like, 315 pounds to doing, 405, 415. And, they increased their 1 rep max by 25%. Did we change the gear? No, we didn't. Because in the pro class, it was pretty much dead set that you don't want to make your gear harder if it's going to compromise your reaction and time out of the gate, right? Your ability to get out of the gate efficiently and then be able to get on top of the gear. So theoretically, getting faster, getting stronger will allow you to be more efficient on the gearing that you have as well. So you want to think about that. Okay, I think that's good. What else do we have? Jacob James says, I set my cones 20 feet apart. I bought a measuring wheel from Home Depot to measure out my sprints. Cheap and works great. Todd Wilson says, what up, Coach G? Hey, Todd, how you doing? Hope you guys are doing well. All right, guys. I think I'm about wrapped up here. Let's see if there's any other questions that were awesome that I missed. Oh, Tony Zaz BMX says pump tracks and dirt jumping helps a lot. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. I agree. Can I find that? Going back to the earlier part of the show, we talked about how riding your bike is the #1 way to get faster. And Tony brought up the fact that pump tracks and dirt jumping helps a lot. Yeah, and I think pump tracks are really good in terms of getting more oneness with the bike and loading up your legs with metabolic waste as well. As long as you're pumping more than 10, 15, 20 seconds, you're really going to get the benefits of that translating into more track speed. Dirt jumping as well. It just depends on what kind of dirt jumping it is. If it's like super ramp to ramp and you're doing 360s, yeah, that's cool. I think that's more of a fun aspect of the track. And yeah, are you spending more time in the saddle? Yes. Is it translatable through the pro section? Probably not. So it just depends on what kind of jumping that you do. I know that when I used to go dirt jumping when I was an amateur and I lived in Anaheim in Orange County over here, we were going to trails that pretty much mimicked rhythm sections at tracks. And I was working on staying really low and staying really fast. So, you know, if you're going to hit the dirt jumps and be razor low and practice on getting really, really good backside and being smooth and efficient, then absolutely that's going to totally translate onto the track anywhere from, you know, the first jump all the way to the finish line. Guys, I think that's more than enough. I said I was going to go till 7 o'clock. It is 7:11. Guys, have a great week. It's good to see everybody. Please forgive me if I wasn't able to answer all your guys' questions, but I see everybody, right? So that being said, you guys have a great night. Make sure you guys are riding your bike. That's the number one way to get faster. Don't get me wrong. I love strength training. Strength training is great as long as you're doing the right stuff. So make sure that you guys get with a great strength coach, someone like myself. T-Ron says, thank you again, coach. Jack Baker says, bye. And yeah, you guys have a great week. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. You guys, if you guys are in California, stay dry. Here in San Diego, we're gonna get rain for a couple more days. So yeah, you guys are gonna have to get really, really creative in terms of riding your bike and getting faster. So you guys have a good night, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.